Let's get started. This is essentially advisory sessions one. Hopefully this becomes more of a recurring thing and we can have folks come and take these master classes for all of you. But for people who aren't familiar with me or might only be familiar with me in much recent times, I just thought I'll give you a quick little introduction about myself. And for anyone that's fundraising, this is one of the slides that's from one of the pitch decks that I've made as well. So hopefully that's helpful. But basically, until earlier this year, I was the global product lead for NFT/Web3 at Mastercard. I was the youngest product lead in the company's history. The role itself was created for me by the CEO, given all the experiences that I'd had in the space and my passion for just pushing the space forward. Before that, I had some short stints at Deloitte, EY. When I resigned from MasterCard, it became one of the world's most viral resignations. It really blew up. I minted my resignation as an NFT, which was really fun to do. Last year, I co-founded Relief, which I'll talk about during this presentation as well. But it was a humanitarian project that we created through NFTs for Ukraine and raised about $2 million that we donated in its entirety to different organizations. When I was in college, I founded one of the largest mental health communities called Runaway. We worked for 4 to 5 years with organizations like Mental Health America, UNICEF, World Health Organization, Wellcome Trust in the UK, to host events on college campuses for students, formulate mental health policies, conduct mental health research, and essentially just help young people improve their mental health and break down some of the stigma that surrounds the topic. I'm building a social media platform called Anoka right now, and that essentially comes from the fact that I've been chronically online since I was very young, and I've built a lot of different brands. I've built a lot of personal spaces on social media. Twitter is where most of you know me from, but my biggest audience is on Tumblr, where I've been active since I was a teenager. I have 60,000 followers there. When I was during the pandemic, I started a TikTok account called Napkin Reviews, where I would just go to fast food restaurants and review the napkins that they would give out with their food. And that completely blew up during the pandemic, reached over 100,000 followers and over 1 million likes. Ended up deleting that account because it just got too weird, but it was another one of my fun experiments. So that's kind of a little background to who I am and what I've done prior to Web3, essentially. So to get started, talking about building community, talking about scaling community, I think one of the best examples I can give you for organic user acquisition is probably Runaway. So Runaway was the social initiative for mental health I founded when I was still in college. And this is a time when I was super broke. I was an international student that had just moved to New York from India, very limited budget. I literally had not even like $10 to $20 to spend on advertising. So everything that I had to do to build Runaway's audience had to be completely organic and had to be completely free. Over 4 years, we were able to scale to a community of 20,000 plus members. We had a presence on 50 plus college campuses around the world. We had a team of 150 volunteers that I managed, and we managed to host about 20 plus events. So how Runaway started was I used to go online on platforms like Instagram, and I would look for people who were using the platform to reach out for help. And for people who were trying to talk about their mental health and didn't really have an outlet to talk about it. I would, from my personal account, just leave a message or, leave a comment on their post saying, if you need a friend to talk to, I'm there for you. And literally through that very organic conversation that I started to have with complete strangers online, we were able to build this insane community of people that just were passionate about mental health, that wanted to share resources, and that just wanted to help out each other, become volunteers, kind of spread the gospel. And through those experiences, obviously you could see, some of this media response that we got, some of the organizations that we got to work with. And it was really amazing to see that at that young age when I didn't really have any resources whatsoever. I mean, now, I gambled on shit coins or I spend more in gas fees in a day than I probably had spent on Runaway in months. So it's cool what you could achieve organically is the point. So besides reaching out to people on Instagram, I think one of the favorite things that I've ever done for user acquisition was this, which is understanding to meet your target audience where they are. For Runaway, because it was focused specifically on a lot of young people, a lot of college students, high school students, this was the way that I got our users for free. I would join multiple Facebook groups every day. So I would go on Facebook, I would search for class of 2020, class of 2021, and just get these lists on Facebook of hundreds and thousands of colleges and high schools from around the world. I would join every single group I could. I would get rate limited quite a bit doing this, but you would usually answer a few questions. You would talk about why you want to join this group, and suddenly I would have access to hundreds of thousands of young people, all for free. From there, I would just make a post saying, whatever, this is what Runaway is, this is what we do. If you're looking for mental health resources, if you're looking for volunteer opportunities, if you're looking for internships, and I would have thousands of people reaching out every month to just be a part of the team to, help us out in some way or the other. So meeting your target audience where they are is probably the easiest path to bringing users on board. The second thing that was a great learning experience from Runaway was that freebies drive a ton of engagement and loyalty. In Web3, we've seen a lot of NFT projects will give out airdrops. They'll, host giveaways for free NFTs. And while you can argue that it doesn't really drive loyalty, it does drive a lot of engagement. We've seen that giveaway posts get communities thousands and thousands of likes and retweets. And so the idea here was very similar. We partnered for Runaway with an organization that was able to give a free 1-year subscription to professional mental health therapy. So we partnered with them to host this giveaway, and I think we gave out 100 or 200 1-year subscriptions to therapy to our followers. And just from that, we were able to actually gain thousands and thousands of new followers and millions in engagement, because everyone who received this free subscription was actually then able to, talk about it and share it on their stories. Also, the power just went out. Again, it seems like it always happens. We were able to develop these fans for life, free subscriptions. So if you are a company that, does offer things like subscriptions to your product, if you have like premium access tiers, if you have merch, whatever it is that you can give out and you can afford to give out for free to your audience, I do think that it'll drastically help drive more engagement and retention. And it doesn't always have to come from you either, I think is the big thing for us, because we were able to build such an amazing audience. We actually had this professional therapy company approach us and say, we want to partner with you. You give out these subscriptions on our behalf. So even though, we didn't actually pay for these subscriptions, we didn't actually host these subscriptions, we just were able to give them out, and we still got to reap the rewards of that. So that's on the Runaway side. I think the next thing that I want to share here is share love to get love, which is basically, talking about how you engage on social media with people. So I'm sure everyone's seen this famous PFP here. But basically back in, I want to say 21, when I was starting to build out my personal brand on social media and I was trying to build my own audience on social media, one of the first things that I wanted to do is test out if I can growth hack Instagram. And for that, I'd actually built what you can see on screen here is an Instagram engagement bot that I built in Python. And I'm not even a coder, so it was really simple, just searching online, finding ways to do it, and building this out. But basically what this bot would do was find hashtags that were relevant to my industry and find anyone and any public post that was using those hashtags, and then engage with them based on these parameters that I'd set. So it would find posts and then make all these different comments one by one on each post. And when people would see those comments, when they would see me liking and engaging with their post, they would tend to check out my profile and they would engage with it. They would often follow me. And just through running this bot, maybe 1 hour every day, I was able to go from 100 followers on one of my social media accounts to about 3,000. I'd spend $0 on anything at all. And it was just one of those ways that, taught me the value of actually engaging. Now these bots don't work anymore because social media platforms have become really smart. They've also become very expensive to run these APIs. And so the best way now that, you could learn is to just engage organically, which means find people that talk about, again, like these hashtags, find people that talk about the same content that you're passionate about, find people that resonate with your ideals, your industry, and just engage with them in a positive manner. Leave comments that talk about stuff that they're talking about, leave comments that make you seem smart, leave comments that are actually engaging, are actually insightful. And especially in Web3, don't become a reply guy. Um, I know Winnie's here, who's a great friend, but we've joked about, reply guys a lot in this space. I know a lot of people have been talking about how bad this whole reply guy phenomena has become ever since monetization went live on Twitter. So oftentimes when people can tell when you're just replying and when you're just engaging for the sake of it, and that's actually going to hurt your brand, you'll find people are muting you, blocking you, unfollowing you more often. So if you really want to stay authentic, if you really want people to engage with you, resonate with you, make sure you're coming off as someone who is genuine and who is someone that is authentic and passionate about what you talk about. Um, so from there, the next thing that I want to talk about, and this is especially helpful for businesses more than founders, is finding a cause. Um, David, I know you just spoke. So David is someone who's always been very cause aligned, who's someone who's always focused on social impact. He was building Change Gallery before, and now he's building Founder to, help artists, help creators, help Web3. And that's the kind of stuff that really does help a lot when people can resonate with you and your mission. So here, like I said, I wanted to come back to the example of Relief, because Relief was one of those projects that started last year in 2022 with a couple of friends, and it just became this overnight success because it was very cause driven, it was very mission driven, it was something that was very relevant at the time. And that's why people just immediately had this affinity to want to be a part of it, to want to help out. So for those who are not familiar, last year, Andrew Wang, he's a great friend in the space, he put out a tweet saying Web3 does so much for people. Why aren't we doing something for Ukraine when the war just started? And I replied to that tweet. We put together a group chat, and that night itself, we planned to engage artists in the space and put out a drop the next day. Within 24 hours, we collected, I think, 25 to 30 artists. We collected artworks from them, turned them into editions, and released that project. I think 7,700 NFTs that we put together and launched in 24 hours. And it sold out in 30 seconds, raising $1 million. Just through NFT art sales, just because there was this cause that people were really excited about, really passionate about, as well as the artists that were part of it were artists that people really looked up to. And that was honestly a testament to how social causes can really create meaningful differences in helping you build your community. From there on, we launched our second collection, which again netted us about another million. And all in all, within a month, we'd raised 2 million plus for Ukraine and donated it in its entirety, making a world of difference to people. And we shared some of that impact that people's money was able to create, people's ETH was able to create at the ground level. And it really did inspire this community that was very resilient, that wanted to be a part of this, that wanted to continue to support and talk about things. We had news articles writing about us. We had other organizations reaching out to work with us to kind of continue this social impact journey. I know in advisory, again, there's a ton of companies and projects that are focusing on a specific niche of social impact. So Scander is building something in the regen space with climate change. Danny's building something mental health focused. I know PAF is your building something for inclusivity and accessibility. So there's a lot of amazing people in Web3 that are building things that are very aligned with social impact. And so I think that is something that's really important if you want to actually build audiences that care about these causes. Paf, I see you have a question here. Yeah, so I think that's a really great question. Would you say your own personal brand or network was a big factor in being able to activate these artists so quickly, have the social proof to be able to build this off? Yeah, I think that's definitely a big one. Um, that comes down to the idea of your reputation, which does tend to come from your actions. So I would say, like, for me, a lot of people knew me as someone who was focused on social impact since I got started in Web3. I had consulted for NFT projects publicly as a social impact advisor. It's something I'd built a reputation for. And Andrew obviously was this influencer that knew a lot of artists, that knew a lot of people. So I would say that helped us, but I wouldn't necessarily say that, if we weren't famous, that this wouldn't have been a success or this would have never happened, because during that time there were actually a lot of smaller projects that I supported that were also focused on this idea of being able to support people in Ukraine. And sure, while they didn't raise $2 million in a month, they did raise, $20,000, $50,000, whatever it was still meaningful to the cause. And I think that's the important takeaway, is because there was this idea of impact associated. It did work in their favor. And that also takes me back to when I started in this space, late 2020, and early 21, all the NFT projects that used to mint actually used to have a charity component. So, 5, 10% of whatever money they minted was always being donated to charity. And while a lot of times it was for marketing, it did get people very mission aligned with them. So there were NFT projects that said they'll donate to mental health organizations, climate change organizations, women empowerment organizations. And it did add this different element where people wanted to support and be part of an NFT project because of that impact and cause oriented narrative that they were able to create. So finding a cause, I guess, is kind of the next big takeaway here. And now I come to Join Circle, which is probably what most of the people in the group chat and our Telegram wanted to learn about. Last year, I started working on Join Circle, which was meant to be a Discord competitor. And while we've now pivoted away from Join Circle, building Anoka now, which is a more encompassing social platform, Join Circle really, for the past year, did become a great case study in social activation and just growth hacking, because we were able to build some crazy numbers that I want to talk about. And today I'll finally reveal how we did it. So here's kind of the highlights for Join Circle. We received 90,000 plus signups, almost 100,000 signups in 1 week last year. We have 20K plus Twitter followers. We have 8,000 plus wallets that have interacted with us, have engaged with our free drops, with our POAPs, et cetera, et cetera. We have 40 plus partner projects, which includes NFT projects, DeFi communities, DAOs, et cetera, from across different blockchains. And all in all, a funnel of 350K plus that's actually now expanded since we've pivoted to Anoka, that we're hopefully going to be onboarding to the platform in the coming months. Mukund, I see you have your hand raised. Do you have a question here?
It seems like I joined in at the perfect time. Not that I didn't want to join earlier, but no, this is nice. So I'd seen your metrics. I remember I'd seen it at 50K, and I was talking to the team that Satvik's got 50K. Now, how are you measuring these signups? I mean, is it just wallets, in which case it could be not 90,000 users, but maybe, I don't know, 20,000 users, which is still a great number with multiple wallets, right? So, like, how were you calculating these signups and maybe even this Web3 natives, this 350K number?
Yeah,
Just
great,
to
great,
understand,
great
because
question.
it's not about doubting these numbers, right? But just trying to understand, how these metrics get presented, and maybe even what investors, for instance, or other people like to see, right? Because to me, when I see wallets, I'm always thinking about, okay, how many actual users were there?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question and completely fair. So as you can tell, like, this is one of the slides that was part of an ex VC deck that we put together, right? So this obviously is quite meant to be quite exciting, quite kind of eye catching. So how we've actually tracked the signups is we've hit multiple waves of emails. So when we collected this data, we collected emails and wallet addresses. So we've collected, we sent out multiple emails through our newsletter. We've checked our open rates multiple times. So when we hit the first wave, out of the 90K, we had an open rate of about 65,000 email addresses actually checked their emails. So we were already, hit with that number. Right now we have we just ran our first public awareness campaign, which was for Anoka, utilizing those emails. So this time, now that there's been like 6 months between when people for this and this first campaign, we had an active, I want to say open rate of about 40 to 50% of that. So the first email we had about 20,000, 25,000 opens, and the second email we had about 35 to 40,000 opens. So while it's obviously not 90,000 people that signed up opening their email and seeing Anoka's kind of newsletter updates, we're still hitting pretty decent numbers there. And which is why I said the sign up thing is a bit outdated. But that said, we're now actually, now that we have more realistic numbers for our current user base, we're going to start ramping up basically a new round of signups and things of that nature. So coming soon, that's the alpha.
That's exciting. And I guess the core of the question was, even at that point, I remember thinking like, are there even 50,000 active people in Web3, right? Unique users. And it seems like there were, which is good news, because to me, I was putting that number at 5 to 10,000, to be very honest. So I was like, okay, 50,000. But for you to have identified, okay, out of 90,000, it was actually a 65,000 open rate. That's great. Gives me some hope. So thanks for that.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the other side of this is that, not all 90,000 signups that we got are going to be Web3 active users, because there's multiple aspects to this. So a lot of people that signed up will refer everyone in their personal network, which oftentimes will hit people that aren't even in Web3. I've done this before where I was trying to hit referral goals and I'll tell my parents to sign up, or I'll tell my college friends to sign up. So that's the other thing. And I think that's why looking at those metrics that go along with the main metrics, like how many people are opening the email, when they open the email, are they opening our Twitter account? When we put out a free open edition, did someone mint this? All those things will then give us a better idea. And so, coming to this question of how many people are actually in Web3 that are engaging, with Join Circle, one of the things we did was collect as much data on every single thing. So the email signups were only one aspect of it. We collected data on all our social activations. We did multiple free NFT mints called early supporter badges. So we just kept collecting as much data to keep quantifying how much strength we really have behind all these signups and stuff that we're getting. So the next thing that we did pretty early on with Join Circle was actually just involve our early Twitter followers. We had a pretty loyal and pretty excited community about Join Circle. And so we decided to capitalize on that by just putting out an entire brand assets kind of thing document together, which had, ways for people to change their PFP to represent us. There were these cover images, multiple cover images that people could use on their Twitter. We had these free early supporter badges that you see on the top right that people could claim as NFTs for free. And when we started to give out some of these brand assets to people, we just saw a complete Twitter takeover of Join Circle. People literally just went wild repping us for no reason other than because they wanted to show that they're part of something and that they're part of this early days of Join Circle when, I think we had 3,000 followers. We already had such a strong community that people were willing to rep us before we even shipped anything. So I think that again is like, keep engaging with your audiences and keep engaging with people to make them feel part of something bigger than themselves. And then the next thing, Mukund, to kind of come back to this idea of drawing data, we started hosting Twitter Spaces as step 3. So we called it building community. We would we weren't a regularly scheduled spaces. We would host spaces when we felt we had some interesting guests to bring on board. So you could see we've already had some guests here in advisory that we had for Join Circle last year. So we've had people like board Elon Musk, Zeneca, Randy Zuckerberg, Fubar, that came in, talk about their own experiences, talked about their own projects. And all in all, we had about 5,000 plus listeners across 5 episodes. We gave out POAPs that were gated with our passwords so they couldn't be botted. So, 2,000 plus POAPs were claimed over 5 episodes, which were all only people who were there in that 10-minute window during the spaces. So it does show, again, a level of engagement that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise, and you wouldn't be able to tell if it was just an open POAP that anyone could bot and receive over an hour. And then the NFT claim. So we did 3 NFT claims, which were the early supporter badges. 2 of these, OGCL and CLS2, were only for our Twitter followers. So we had 600 plus claims from 400 wallets. And Circle and Friends was only open for users whose wallets we were given from our partner communities. So much more limited. And only these limited number of people from partner communities could actually mint those. So that gave us some interesting metrics. And then finally, as our final kind of data collection on the active wallet side, when Jack Butcher released checks last year, we put out an open edition called Circles, which was derived, I should have added the image here, but it was just derived from the same design as the checks open edition. And anyone could mint this for free. So within, I think this was a week, we had 2,300 mints from 1,400 wallets, giving us yet another data point of just active users that are continuing to engage with us. Once we had all this, we decided that, cool, we have a decent community. I think we can start opening up our signups. And I'll be very honest with you guys, when we opened up our signups, at the time, my co-founder, Sean, I told him, if we're lucky, maybe we'll end the first day with 5,000 signups, which should be great data point for VCs. We could say, cool, we got 5,000 signups for our product. This will be amazing. We ended up getting 60,000 signups in 24 hours. We literally woke up that day. So the signups went live at night, and we woke up to 10,000 signups, which we were already going insane about. We were FaceTiming each other. I was literally in tears. But as time went on, by the end of that day, we crossed 60,000 signups. And the success for that is essentially because of this viral referral system. Some people racked in as much as 20 to 30 referrals that day. And over the week, that just continued to go up. We also enabled social sharing. So when people signed up, we just gave them an automated Twitter post that said, I've signed up for Join Circle, help me get through the beta and just sign up yourself using my code. And you could see here from our social dashboards that we'd enabled before this campaign. That day we had about 3,500 brand mentions. We had 4 million impressions overall. And I think about 100,000 impressions and about 4.1 million in our total reach from a user and interaction perspective. And over the week, obviously, that transcended to about 90,000. So I think one of the things I also want to just point out here is you will not see this level of data collection from a lot of projects in Web3 because Web3 projects, largely from what I've seen, still just operate as like fun project experiments. And I think one of the takeaways for everyone here should also be to just formalize how you work as a company, which includes, collecting some of these metrics. If you haven't set it up yet, set up a Google Analytics for your website, track all the traffic that you're getting, see where your user acquisition sources are, see where you're getting your referrals from. If Instagram is getting you more people to visit your website than Twitter, track all of those metrics because that really does help you figure out where you want to hit next, what campaigns you want to experiment with. So this, for us, was really just a very successful experiment that taught us a lot about our user preferences, that taught us a lot about our user behavior. And it was literally as simple as this. Our website, you could sign up with your email, your ETH wallet. You click sign up, we would give you a pop-up that let you just post this pre-populated message to Twitter. This is another thing that a lot of projects do wrong is they want the users to write their own tweet. So once someone signs up, you'll just give them usually their referral code and say, share this and be done with it. But you actually want to give them the entire typed out message. So when they click on share to Twitter, it should just be pre-populated for them. And we saw about 45 to 5,000 of these pre-populated posts on Twitter that very day come through just from that website and people clicking on a link and being able to post it directly without any kind of human intervention. So that was the Join Circle campaign. Hopefully that was insightful. And now just, Mukund, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I mean, were you actually tracking it in terms of moving up a spot, for instance? So was that actually happening on the back end too?
Yeah,
And
we
people
weren't
can see how.
bullshitting.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
No, I mean, it is a very good metric. I mean, Revolut, for instance, I've gone crazy over trying to sign up for it and invite people, but just because I want to move up the ladder, right? Because I can see the live counter, etc. So I guess no one really got down to that level. We were just thinking that they're going to move up a spot, which is
yeah.
what
So
got them to. Okay.
yeah, so there was a couple of things here, right? So one, our inspiration for this campaign and this way to design a referral system actually came from the Flow blockchain had put out a platform that they were about to at the time release called Gaia, which was an NFT marketplace meant for the Flow blockchain. And they had this, which at the time seemed really fun and innovative approach for referral systems. And you could see in real time that shit, there's like 100,000 people in line ahead of me. So I need to feel incentivized to start referring more people to move up the spot. So that was kind of the inspiration for this. Due to time constraints and whatever, we didn't actually, coming back to the budget constraints, we wanted to do this for free. We found AWS credits, we found MongoDB credits, like everything was just credits. And so we built this in-house. And obviously we couldn't really use those paid APIs, which would give you like a live tracker and all of that stuff for your spot. But we were maintaining that database in the back end and seeing how many referrals people had, what spots they were in, and kind of manually maneuvering that. Apart from that, when we launched this referral campaign, we'd also actually shared that some of the prizes for the top spots would be, merch, hoodies, stickers, t-shirts, the basic stuff. And we actually, even though Join Circle never launched, we did ship some of those prizes out to some of the top spots just as a gesture of goodwill. I had a lot of sample merch that I'd built over the months of building out Join Circle. So, we did ship some of those prizes to some of the top spots as well. Cool.
How much was your total expenditure, by the way, if you're willing to share? I mean, including your development, not the development cost, but credits, for instance, merch, and all of those things put together. Because I've always felt that with referrals, a lot of it has to do with that award, right, to reach the top spot, and how lucrative that is for someone to actually try and get there.
So tech was $0. We literally got credits for everything. There's a lot of resources that you could use, like sign up for Y Combinator Startup School. They'll give you credits for everything. Pretty decent to run a campaign like this. AWS free tier, we didn't even touch the free tier limits for this. So yeah, all the tech was completely free for us, which was great. For the merch, stickers, all of that stuff, I think it cost us less than $100. We had people that were spread out. Some of the winners were spread out across the globe. We had two in India. We had one in New York and one in California. I think there was one more. I think one in London where I was myself at the time. And I just found local printers in each of those locations. Told a friend that was in that location to just get it delivered to his house and just ship it. So we, instead of using like a centralized printing and distribution method, I just found these like individual spots in all these places to get it done. And that's why like t-shirts were probably like $10, hoodies were 25, done. Super simple. So I think that's also, one of the takeaways I want to share is that a lot of times people feel that good user acquisition has to be expensive, and that's not always the case. And this kind of section of this presentation is really me wanting to share that aspect as well. So back in, the Jagar, exactly. So when I think in 2019, Morning Brew, if you're familiar with it, if you're not, it's a great newsletter that started as a finance newsletter. In 2019, I was introduced to Morning Brew at a college event that I'd attended, and it just immediately was a really exciting thing. Just seeing how they're able to build their audience so quickly. 2019 summer, I met the founder of Morning Brew, Alex Lieberman, at a really fun event called the Next Gen Summit in New York City, where I actually got to hear his presentation about Morning Brew. When they started Morning Brew, people, investors, angels, everyone told them that print media, online media was dead already. You couldn't really captivate people with a newsletter. And Alex and Austin, co-founders from Michigan University, wanted to change that. So this is how they built essentially. They took an audience of 100,000 that they built just within the confines of their college campus and through organic referrals, and have now built a newsletter that's probably one of the world's most famous newsletters with 4.5 million active subscribers. Went from 3 million to 13 million in revenue 2019, 36 in 2022, and 50 million end of last year, expected to grow by 66% this year. So here's just some metrics that you could quickly read through, but essentially most of their subscribers have 1 to 3 referrals. 30% of their growth still comes from referrals only, which is one of the cheapest user acquisition methods, and as much as 1,000 referrals in one day is what they're able to get right now. So it's a really inspiring story, and I wanted to answer your question here about the cost of user acquisition, because Morning Brew is obviously famous enough where they have a lot of this data publicly available for anyone to feel inspired by. Traditionally, for someone like Morning Brew, they would spend $4 to $5 for each subscriber if they use social media, but their referrals only cost 25 cents each. So here you could just see 25 cents gets them bulk ordering for stickers, paying for postage, and that's $1.25 for 5 new subscribers. And when I was in college, I actually was a crazy Morning Brew fan and made it all the way to the crew neck, which was, I got 100 referrals for them, got all this merch, was wearing it all over the college campus, and I was one of the proudest ambassadors, unpaid ambassadors for Morning Brew. Back then, they didn't even have the 1,000 referral work from home setup. So you can really see how quickly they've grown in that time. And again, it's just something that shows that it's not always expensive to get users. Something as simple as a tote bag or stickers will incentivize some of your most loyal people to share and help you grow through those network effects. Talking about the Morning Brew journey, I also want to introduce you to Tyler Denk, who I'm trying to get on an advisory call, by the way. So please spam his Twitter notifications to come here. But Tyler was one of the first employees at Morning Brew back in 2019. And he's now the co-founder and CEO of Beehive, which I'm sure all of you have heard of. It's one of the most famous newsletter platforms that is immediately killing Substack, Medium, and all the legacy ones. Back in 2019, I'd actually messaged Tyler. You could see this LinkedIn screenshot that I included for provenance. But basically, for Runaway, I asked him if I can get his insight on how they built Morning Brew's insane referral system. We hopped on a call. He taught me everything that they were doing with referrals, helped me understand how to navigate that, how to build out the tech behind the referral systems. One of the most valuable phone calls I've ever had, which was amazing. And last year, Tyler Denk left Morning Brew, started his own company, Beehive, which now powers, billions of emails every month for some of the world's most famous newsletters. And he's gone from building out the world's best newsletter to now empowering thousands of them, including our very own advisories mailing list, as well as Anoka's mailing list, and my personal newsletter, consumer.social. So in 18 months, they've made 4 million in revenue run rate. They're expected to make 12 million by the end of this year. They spend $0 on acquisition for their first 12 months, and 90% of their growth remains completely unpaid and organic. They just raised their Series A, and in 18 months to go from zero to Series A is one of the most impressive stories I've heard. And again, 90% of it is unpaid acquisition. So it does kind of go to show you that it is very possible to do. And finally, for anyone who's wondering how to get those subscribers, here are some of my favorite ways that have been taken from the Morning Brew Bible again. Spam the group chat. In the advisory Telegram group, we have the social shills channel. Use it, spam it. If you need us to like posts, if you need me to post it in the newsletter, I will do it. We're here to support you, so make use of it. Take the phone and do it yourself. If you're with your friends, if you're at a party, you want someone to just like this post for a competition, just take their phone, ask them if you could just do it yourself if they don't want to spend time, and you could just get some engagement that way. Post shamelessly on social media. I think this is one of the things that I used to struggle with the most. I've seen a lot of people struggle with this is if you have your friends and family following you on Instagram, or if you have, your idol or your bosses following you on Twitter, you often feel hesitant and you feel embarrassed to post about your passions, to post about your projects on social media. Fuck that, do it anyway. Just be yourself, post on social media, ask for the likes you want, ask for the retweets you want, because ultimately, like, if you don't take that shot, you just don't know if it's going to work out for you. So be shameless when it comes to kind of chasing your dreams and chasing that user acquisition strategy. Use unique methods. You can see with Joint Circle, we tried to use some different approaches to traditional user acquisition. This method, again, mentioned on the Morning Brew kind of Bible, was really interesting, where the copywriter Rob Allen uses Quora for referral acquisition. So he'll find commonly asked questions, answer them very well, very insightfully, and then end his answer with his referral link. And that way he's able to garner, hundreds of thousands of referrals, just by kind of doing that very organic and completely free user acquisition approach. And finally, do what Morning Brew did. Alex and Austin used to go around with a physical clipboard on their college campus in their towns and just ask people to sign up with their email and have people write it down on a piece of paper, and they would just sign them up when they got home. So it's really cool how you can, go to the streets. We did it with Runaway. I would go to lecture halls. I would email my professors and ask them to blast it to the mailing list and just really get down on the ground and make shit happen. So yeah, that's kind of the end of this first masterclass for advisory. Thank you to Mukund for kind of egging me on to do this. Hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully it was insightful. And if anyone has any questions, happy to kind of talk through some of that.
What was the hardest part of building this all out for Joint Circle? Was it the tech? Was it the systems? I mean, what was the hardest part?
Yeah, good question. I think the hardest part for me personally was the cold start, which is just going from zero to like the first 10 to 100 followers, because I think that for me is like always been the biggest challenge, regardless of what it is I'm making. I think when someone opens a profile and they see that they have, hundreds of tweets, they have 10, 15, 20,000 followers, they're more likely to follow that account because they think something valuable could come of it. But it's really convincing your first 50, 100 people to buy into what you're doing. That's always been the hardest. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that you always want to solve, is really bringing on those first set of users. They have to be the most loyal people because they're the ones who will drive the next 20,000. Paf, I see you have your hand raised. Do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been super helpful. I'm so glad I engaged with your tweet at the last minute. I guess like my question would be around any advice for, if you have obviously kind of built a community, you've got a following and audience, you have some of those data points, but maybe you're not like maximizing them as much as possible. Like we've kind of been, building for 18 months, and we've maybe done and tried too many things. And also with the space now, like a lot of our community members have kind of left the space altogether. But yeah, any advice on, I guess, kind of tapping into or activating those community members, or those using those data points to galvanize a bit more energy?
Yeah, definitely something that I'm struggling with right now with Anoka as well, because Join Circle rebranded to Anoka, and then for the past 6 months, while we re-strategized our outlook and the way we're building, we lost a lot of the steam and a lot of that initial passion that our users had. So now we need to get that back, basically. So I understand your struggle and your perspective. I think for me, what I'm trying to do is, again, just treat it not as a continuation of the last time that I was engaging with my audience, but really thinking of it as another cold start, and thinking of it as building that audience, building that interest from day zero, which is why, I honestly got rid of all the previous posts. I got rid of all the previous activations. And now I'm trying to build this new public awareness campaign, this new mailing list where I'm sending out emails as if I've never spoken to this audience before, to one, be able to get that data of who from our last life is still with us today. And then now that we understand that, okay, we have 10-20% of that OG audience, now we need to start building new audiences, and this is how we can do it. So I think if you think that there is this huge gap between what you were and what you are now, treat it as if you're starting brand new, basically.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, do you plan on running another referral campaign for Anoka?
Yeah, so it's going to be a bit different. So I guess I could drop the alpha here, but basically we're working on a pretty interesting NFT collection for Anoka, which is going to serve as fundraising as well as a way for us to actually change the idea of utility in Web3, and offer something tangible from day one. And so for that, we're basically going to be building out a new way to create this referral system, incentivize participants, and instead of just doing a generic user referral system this time, we're actually targeting 3 different segments of the market that we believe are really vital to us and really align with our interests. So first, we're targeting and looking to work exclusively with artists. Second, we're looking to work exclusively with creators, content creators, thread writers, spaces hosts, all of that. And third is communities. So any communities that are mission aligned, any NFT projects, any companies that are mission aligned and just want betterment of this space, that's how we're going to now target our referral system and user acquisition. So incentivize cohorts instead of individuals. So yeah, more alpha. I'm happy to kind of publicly reveal all the secrets.
Yeah, I mean, the reason for that question was more, sort of documenting, at least internally within advisory, the journey, right? Because I do see a lot of interest. I personally am very interested in trying to figure this out for Collider as well. But it'll be good to get, as we go, sort of approach, insider view into how you're doing things. Especially if it has a lot of those components of the previous one, and the new ways you're going about it. Maybe not before, but after some time, and you feel ready to share how certain steps have been done along the process.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm definitely happy to share. I think one thing I definitely always focus on is just recording everything. Everything's going to be index and then kind of presentations and everything. So yeah, I'll make sure to open source that once we're through with this experiment. Cool.
Fantastic.
Any other questions? Let's see. Cool. Well, so yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
This was super, super helpful. Yeah, just want to say I appreciate this. You're always so great at like breaking things down to its first principles type things like this. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Murph, for joining. Appreciate you. Hopefully we'll get you in advisory permanently after this call as well. Awesome. So I guess if there's no more questions at the end of the call, so if something does come up, always feel free to DM me. You know how to reach me: Twitter, Telegram.